Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Sugar Mama's Fire Play podcast. I am your host, financial planner, Canna Campbell. And I'm going to share a story with you. Actually, I'm not going to share the story. I'm going to interview someone who's going to share their story. And their story is how they have literally made $21,000 out of thin air. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited to share with you that I have a new series within the Sugar Mama's Fire Play podcast, and that is called Out of Thin Air. These are stories from everyday people who have managed to earn, save, create, attract, build, even manifest, if you like, money literally out of thin air. You see, I'm really trying to wake you guys up and realize that we don't need to look at the system to hold us back or to fill us up with fear or to impose these very narrow-minded, self-limiting beliefs that it takes money to make money. These people, their stories, their accomplishments, their successes prove the point that you can literally make money out of thin air and that you can use that money to further your financial well-being and create greater financial security and independence in your life. So with immense pride and joy, I'm sharing with you Jules's story and how she has literally out of thin air made $21,000. Jules, thank you so much for coming on today's episode. And this is the first episode of the series Out of Thin Air. How are you today?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me.
I received your DM on Instagram and I had to do a double take because, wow, I have so many questions to ask you. And how have you literally made out of thin air $21,000? Can you take me back and explain everything from the very start?
Well, I've always been into secondhand items and really careful about my impact on the earth and also the impact that buying new can have on the wallet. So mostly me, but my husband is very supportive, and we're a good team because he's Mr. Fix-It. We always, try and buy and sell secondhand. And in our local government area, the council collection comes by twice a year, and everyone kind of knows what suburbs are each week. And it's easiest in your own neighborhood or driving, through the suburbs you're usually in. But if we see something that's valuable, either to us as a family or to somebody else, we clean it up, fix it up. We might use it for ourselves. We've got a 2-year-old now, so he pretty much only gets secondhand things. And then some things we literally just fix and resell, just depending on the value it holds to us. So there's lots of things that people throw out that still have use.
Oh, it's incredible. And they're also quite special pieces. Actually, would have been about 2 months ago, I was walking down my street and I found a collection of beautiful vases. And there were no chips or marks or scratches, and they were just stunning. And I grabbed, I think, 3 or 4 of them and juggled them to carry them home. And I absolutely love them. And even the other day, I was walking past an apartment block right near my house, and outside the front was this huge teddy bear of a tiger from Tigger the tiger from Winnie the Pooh. It was about 1 meter high, and it had a sign on it saying, "Please take me." And my daughter's name is Tiger. So I, took it home and the kids were just beside themselves with happiness. And about, a few days later, I noticed that the family were moving out of their apartment. And so I went up to the mother and said, "Look, I'm actually the person that took Tigger the tiger because my daughter's name is Tiger and she loves it." And I was chatting with her and she said, "That toy is actually was my son's toy and he's now 21. So it's so beautiful to be able to carry something that's got, a bit of history. It had a bit of a journey behind it. It just makes it even more meaningful than something that's just come fresh out of a factory or a shop.
Totally. And so I think some people hope that that's the case. Like last week, so we had our collection last week, and We found this little four-wheel drive thing and it had the charger wrapped up all tidy, like it was just ready for someone to say, "Hey, I need a new home." And so we'll hold on to that until my kid outgrows it, and then we might pass it on to another family. Or we did have to do a little bit of fixing with it. There was some loose things, but yeah, perfectly fine. Hot pink Minnie Mouse. My kid loves it.
Now tell me about the money. Like, when did you start going, actually, we could sell this, or actually, this is starting to make up a lot of money here that we're bringing on as literally as a tax-free side hustle?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that it ever was just like a specific point. Definitely during when we had more like lockdown time and more time where we could kind of fix things. My husband, he works in a workshop, and they even a little bit of a side hustle, but they were throwing out these big pieces of like pine, like really beautiful pine. And so he brought them home and turned them into planter boxes and then sold them. So it was kind of just like, I mean, from our values, we just really saw use in so much stuff, and that kind of unconscious consumerism didn't we never really got involved in that, and then just saw how harmful that was for our earth and that kind of thing. But it's definitely, the momentum picked up when I had a year off on maternity leave, so I had a lot more time at home. Obviously, kids stuff, people, love buying new things for their baby and
Mm.
then barely use it. So that was definitely that was probably a new like chapter, that the kids stuff, which we'd never really known anything about. And then when we got involved with that side of things, then we could sort of see new possibilities there. So it's definitely kind of ebbed and flowed, and probably aligns with like whenever the council pickup is in our area, because then we go nuts on it.
So talk me through your process. Like, do you check out online who's having a council clear up and go, right, like this area, has got a scheduled pickup, this day of the quarter, and, make sure you turn up with a ute or a big four-wheel drive or even a van. Like, are you looking for certain things in particular? Like, talk me through your process, especially for someone who's listening to this going, I love hearing these values. I care about the planet. I care about reducing landfill, and I want to make some money on the side. Like, what are your tips and tricks, and how do you do this?
So my husband is very methodical. He'll go out and he likes the big ticket items, and he's absolutely got the eye for it. We had one place where he got about $700 worth of, or what we sold for $700. I don't know how much, it was probably more, but it was golf stuff, and we didn't know anything about it. He kept a few bits of it, but so he's really good at that. And I'm just like, ooh, that looks pretty, and ooh, some homewares, and ooh. So I just grab everything, and my car usually ends up being a little bit of a mess. And then, I kind of dump it all on the porch whenever I get home. But then if there's something we need, so gardening stuff seems to be a big thing. So we get like all of our like house plants, and we've raised garden beds and that kind of thing. So sometimes we'll be like, oh, what area has curbside collection now, and if it's close enough within, because we're on Lake Macquarie, so some things are close in proximity, but by boat only. So it might be on the other side of the lake or something, but I'll say, oh, can you keep an eye out for a pot about this big or whatever, and then he'll if he sees that on the run, then we'll pick it up. So there's we do a little bit of manifesting with that, thinking like, I will find the chairs that I need to suit our new dining table or whatever it is. But yeah, for me, it's pretty much like, oh, that looks nice, and I just grab it and hope it goes.
Are there particular items that you think sell better or command a higher like sale price than others? Like, for example, do kids stuff sell faster, or does, homewares or furniture? Like, is there a particular thing you go, oh, that will sell like hotcakes?
I was worried you're going to ask that, and I don't know. It like I mean, I'm big on, I don't like keeping the stuff. So everything that we get rid of is like, I just want it gone kind of thing. And I don't want it landfill. So I sell a lot of things for like $5 and under. And then randomly I'll have something that I would have thought, like last week I had an electronic jump rope. I don't even know they existed. And I woke up the next morning and I had like 17 messages like, is this still available? And I had it for $2. And anyway, so I was just like, oh, maybe that was worth a lot more. But I sold it for $2, and
Yeah.
I learned if I found another one, maybe I'll ask for more, but someone got a $2 electronic jump rope and they messaged me later and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so stoked with this. Thank you so much." And I
Oh,
think she
that's
got it
so
for her
cute.
son. So I mean, it is about like it's great to have the extra cash, but I love that some people just are stoked with whatever they got, and to think that it was just going to go to landfill. Like that's really what keeps me going.
And the thing is, a lot of people focus obviously on, the money or reducing landfill, but they're also forgetting that they're helping create opportunities for people who might be in a financially vulnerable position or things might be particularly tight right now to be able to have that particular item that they couldn't necessarily afford brand new. So there's a huge amount of, I guess, good karma and gratitude for both parties. And I'll never forget when I sold my son's bike with him that he had actually previously bought on Gumtree that he had outgrown. And then we sold to another little boy. And just watching that cycle is just incredibly beautiful. And this was this little boy who turned up to our house. It was his first bike, and he was so excited. And the father was all into reducing landfill as well. And Rocco got the introduction of collecting the money and the conversation as to what to do with that money. So there's it's not just about reducing landfill and making a bit of extra money on the side. There's actually a really powerful community connection and flow on effect
Absolutely.
that comes from doing this. And yes, it was $2, but you know what? That $2 adds up very, very quickly. And you never know what the next thing is. And I really believe, and I talk about this in my manifesting program about the momentum. And on that topic of momentum is when the universe gives you an opportunity, you've got to jump on it and take it and show gratitude. And if you do, it will give you another opportunity shortly after so that you can continue on with that momentum. When we turn our nose up at something or it's too hard or not worth it and lose that sense of gratitude and respect, those opportunities really dry up to, as I say, make money out of thin air. Have you found that for yourself where you find something and it's amazing, and then all of a sudden out of the blue you find something else, and it's just like this continuous flow of opportunities?
Definitely, and having that openness, definitely aligns with it. So, an example is my husband cleaned up a welding helmet. I don't really know much about welding helmets, but apparently they're quite expensive, like 700 something bucks.
Wow.
And, a guy messaged me and he said, "Can I pick this up? I need it tonight." And he talked me down on the price, and I could have said no, and we sold. I think we had it listed for like 150 or something, so much less than what it would have been new. And I could have said, "Oh no, like I want what I'm asking for." I forgot what I was asking for, but I think he asked for $50 off or something. And when he picked it up, he said, I've been out of work for a really long time and I've got a job that starts tomorrow and I need this now." So he was going to have to go out and buy a new one had he not been able to get a secondhand one. And so that was a really good example of, and that's part of our rules that, we don't want all this stuff lying around. We do want everything gone. So if we're getting, less than what we originally asked for it, then that's no problem. And then to hear that it really made a difference to that person is like, it's just like all hits all the marks for us because we're kind of making the differences that we like.
And where are you selling all this stuff? Is it purely Gumtree, or are you doing Facebook Marketplace or Depop, or like eBay? Like, where do you find is most helpful and what do you use the most?
Just marketplace. I sometimes, if it's like a niche item, like an antique or something, and my husband does all that research, then we'll add it to Gumtree. But I just can't, like, I work 5 days a week. I've got a 2-year old, and I do have to like weigh up the balance between what's going to get me the most money versus what's going to get it sold the quickest. And I'm not big on the postage things, so I get a lot of people on Gumtree asking me to post things, and that's not within my bandwidth right now. So, and it's not as important to me. I'm sure we could probably broaden our landscape and the platforms that we use, but yeah, it's just not worth me to do it that way. And marketplace is pretty easy and accessible.
How do you deal with the safety element, especially with a 2-year old? Do you ever get nervous or think, "Oh, I'm not comfortable with this person," or I've got a bad feeling?
I'm laughing because I simply don't worry about it. And I in my journey, I literally just say, I'm probably going to be chasing a toddler around. It's out on the front porch. Just leave the money. And so I don't have a lot of face-to-face interactions with the people. And I kind of think, you know what, if someone doesn't leave the money, who cares? Like, I don't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
care that much. It's only ever happened once. And the person like found the envelope in their car and must have realized that they hadn't put it in the letterbox or whatever. One time, and this was actually only like 2 weeks ago, I was trying to sell a cocktail dress, which was actually my own. It wasn't one that I had found. And I got a person who was asking if they could come try it on. And he said, I know you might not feel comfortable because I'm a man coming into your home. And I did what I say to everyone. I say, oh, I'm working from home. I'll leave it out front. If you want to try it out front, you're more than welcome to, or you can try it on in your car or whatever. And I was trying to be respectful of his
Mm.
beliefs and whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, he didn't reply, and he like left the conversation. And I was a little bit surprised by that because I thought I was being non-judgmental and
Yeah.
open-minded. But yeah, I'm not going to let a stranger into my home to try on a dress, especially when I'm home alone or with my kid. So that's really been the only time that, and that was very recent. So in 4 years, and nothing came of it. It kind of was an ick feeling.
Mm. And I know for myself, I've done the same sort of thing. I've left the particular item at the front door and, said, look, can you please just slip the money under the door? And I've never had an issue at all. And you do get, I think your intuition is pretty strong. You get a feel for something that's not right. And you know when it's perfectly fine. They're asking the right questions. They're explaining their situation as to why they're looking for what they're looking for. And you just know it's okay. Obviously, including common sense in there as well. Now, my big question for you is, what have you done with this money and how has it helped your financial well-being?
It's been a bit of a shotgun approach, I think. I mean, we were really lucky. Neither of us were impacted financially with our work during the COVID initial craziness. So it's very much been a top up for us. As much as we're pretty frugal with our expenses, we do like to be really generous with gifting and, and being really, yeah, just not having to feel like we can't be be thoughtful towards our friends who are having new babies, or tomorrow we're going for a wedding and we just went, oh yeah, we'd love to give this amount, and we have that, so that's great, and we even have the cash for it already, so that's very convenient. But I mean, thinking more broadly over the last couple years, I was able to take a full 12 months off of work with maternity leave. I did have a lot of that was paid, but or not not a lot of it, some of it was paid, but it just gave me that sense. I mean, I love my one coffee a day, and coffee's like $6 a day. So when I did my like maternity leave budget, I actually like budgeted for my daily coffee, which looking back was hilarious because there was no way that I was ever going to get out of the house with a newborn to get my coffee at the cafe up the
You need
road, or
to
just
find a coffee machine now on the side of the street.
I have actually, but it's a pod one, and that just doesn't go with my environmental.
Oh,
It
fair
doesn't
enough.
align with my environmental values. But I do need a coffee machine that I can put like grinds and stuff in. So I did end up getting like the drip coffee one. But I mean, there's nothing like a good cafe coffee. And so being able to, not feel guilty about that when I was on maternity leave, that I still wanted that one thing that I knew I could enjoy. And then we went back to America, which I hadn't been home since 2019. So I had flights, as you know, are pretty astronomical right now, and
Mm.
once the kid turns 2, you have to pay pretty much the full ticket, but the
Yeah.
flights were like $9,000, and it was a bit of a ooch. But we had so when I originally did a tally up, I went, wow, okay, so we've actually kind of covered that and then some. So it's definitely just given us that little bit of cushion for when things come up, whether it's a flight to America or just wanting to be generous with somebody who needs it. Then we can kind of spoil people as it happens.
So it sounds like this $21,000 or potentially more has actually given you a good buffer in your budget, allowed you to say yes to opportunities that, come your way, and also obviously allowed to invest in valuable memories, which is, flying back home to see your family and take your son with you and to have incredible moments together as a family. I mean, how incredibly beautiful is that? And it's all from doing something that's so responsible and creative by literally picking up the rubbish on the side of the road that people have just heartlessly discarded.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does that feel?
It's a good feeling. I'm a social worker, so the social worker in me is very, like, proud of myself, and sometimes, I
Yeah.
mean, I do get a little bit of, the jokes from my colleague, which are very in a very affectionate way, but, "Oh, what have you picked off the side of the road?" Or, "Oh, is that a piece of is that from scabbing?" or whatever, and usually I'm like, "Yeah, it actually," especially, like, play equipment or, my kid he keeps growing out of the bikes and stuff, so it's opened up a lot of conversations where people have maybe originally been like, why would you do that? Or like, I don't know. I didn't realize I knew anyone that did that. Cause up here, I'm sure it's similar in other areas, but there's a lot of people that just collect scrap metal and they just do that and they cash it in or furniture or something like that. So they're very like specific in what they get.
Mm.
And I don't really have like the tradie look with the big trailer cage going for me. I just have a Mazda 3, but
That's what Tom
uh,
drives, Mazda 3.
yeah, very, very practical car. And yeah, so I think some people are a little bit surprised at first when I say that, or even like, people ask what my son's getting for Christmas or his birthday or something. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It depends what we find on the side of the road. And but it's definitely opened up conversations about over consumerism. And I mean, it's important to me to talk about, especially as a parent. I think about the earth that we're leaving our
Mm.
next generation, and kind of what's going to be more important to him if he has heaps of brand new toys growing up, or if he has a beautiful world in 10 and 10 and more years, 10, 20, 30 years. So yeah, it's a good feeling. It's also been a real good community focus as well. We've got our neighbors across the street and next door us onto it as well. So the husbands are complaining a little bit because they're running out of space, but they just they've got to get on board with the long road.
I have one last question for you, which I guess more of it's a personal question, but how do you deal with people who may judge you for picking up stuff off the side of the road and knowing that you're not going to be judged here? Because I do the same thing too sometimes, as does Tom, my partner.
Yeah, in the moment, I definitely kind of feel a little bit like, oh, like who's watching me, and I hope this isn't someone that I know. And I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say like in certain times I felt a little bit of shame or embarrassment going through things, but I'm okay with that. I mean, it's something that I could absolutely keep to myself and not tell any of my friends. And I haven't felt like I needed to do that because I'm actually quite proud of it. And especially, and same with the my neighbor next door, as soon as I told him how much he'd made, he no longer complained about the lack of space in his house. So I think when people see the possibility that it creates, it kind of opens that the stigma or the bias against it falls down a little bit, and also they realize how much amazing stuff people waste. The tree behind me, it's a fake rubber tree,
Mm.
and it has a tag on it for $295 from, I don't know, some department store, and it's a fake tree. It's literally brand new. I'm like, it's amazing. It's
Wow.
like a meter and a half tall, and can't keep the one that I bought alive. So the fake one will have to do me for now.
Look, I don't think you should be embarrassed or ashamed at all. And you should just own it and own it proudly. And I think when you do that, you really do inspire other people to, just take a moment to stop and think about that the way that they consume and what they could potentially be doing, with the way that they shop and with things in their own home that maybe they can start to think about discarding in a responsible, mindful way.
Yeah.
And it's funny, spoke about that moment with the vases in my street. And I don't really get embarrassed or ashamed anymore because I think my curiosity just defeats and overrides any of those feelings. But it's funny. I did have an element of thinking, gosh, I hope no one sees me doing this, taking all these vases. And it's funny, my friend who lives in the street, who I was actually probably the first person I was worried that would see me, actually saw me a couple of days later and she was like, hey, I saw you got to those vases before I got to. And there I was thinking, oh my God, she's going to have a go at me and laugh at me or, judge me. And she was like, no, I wanted them as well. I can't believe how good they were. And I can't believe you like literally just beat me to them. And, immediately I'm like, why am I wasting all this energy worrying about what people might think or, being caught because I was like stealing or something. But they are the best vases and they're so good. I came home and cleaned them up. They were quite dusty. And they're absolutely perfect. And, that saves me a couple of $100 in, vases that I, actually, ironically, did actually need, for my own home. And it feels nice. So don't be ashamed, own it and use it as inspiration but to, spread the word of this, not just as a way of reducing landfill, but to make some money. Like that's $21,000, is a lot of money tax-free.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I think the more people talk about it, the more it's like, okay, it's like secondhand is okay. And really moving away from that culture of fast fashion and that just like unconscious consumerism. But I do have to say, one time I was working from home and my husband came home and he said, "Oh, Jules, I've made a mistake. I think I took something that wasn't actually meant to be taken." And he was on a lawnmower bender. He'd picked up a whole bunch of lawnmowers and fixed them up, and we were getting good money for them. And he got home and he's like, "There just wasn't anything wrong with it, and there's gas in it, and it's still warm." And I'm like, "Babe, you got to take that back." And he did. Of course, he took it back. And the grandmother who had lost it, her grandson had parked it right next to the pile when he was done mowing the lawn and went and got himself a drink of water or something. So it was very confusing for anyone driving past. But
so funny. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Well, thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Sugar Mama's Fire Play and being the first of this very special series, Out of Thin Air. And for all the listeners, I really hope this gets you thinking about what you can do to literally make money out of thin air and realize how ridiculous, narrow-minded, and self-limiting these old system beliefs are that it takes money to make money, because it's simply a load of crap. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure, of course, you are following my show, and you can take a split second to leave me a rating and review. That is something that's really important to me, means so much, and I do actually go in and read your ratings and reviews the moment you've left them. So please make sure you do. All right, everyone, I'll catch you next Monday morning on Sugar Mama's Fire Play.